Kyle Busch just threatened Daniel Suarez after the Daytona 500. With the outcome of the Daytona 500 on Sunday, Kyle Busch was extremely furious. A record 212 laps were completed in the Daytona 500 on Sunday, making it the longest race in history. Because of incidents near the finish line that caused cautions, the race required 2 overtimes. Busch was in the lead when the race entered a caution period due to Daniel Suarez spinning with 3 laps remaining. And what happened next is history. And so, let's find out how Kyle Busch threatened Daniel Suarez after the race. Hello NASCAR fam, and welcome back to NASCAR Live. But before we begin, please subscribe to our channel and hit the like button. And let's begin. Kyle Busch seems to be subjected to fresh tortures at Daytona International Speedway every year. The future Hall of Famer, who has won the Cup Championship twice but lost this race, led the most laps. In second place, he came in 138 thousandths of a second behind the winner. At the Daytona 500, he finished in the top 10 more often than he finished 30th or worse. But for Busch, Sunday may have been the worst day. This 2.5-mile speedway appeared to be set to give in and enable Busch to visit victory lane in his 18th attempt to win the Great American Race, 2 days after Brad Keselowski, who was also winless in this race, commented that the Daytona 500 seems to choose its winners. Busch noted the 200th and last planned lap of the 500-mile race, saying, "I believe this was the first time I led lap 200. I wish it was 1998 rules." For Busch, who was in his first season with Richard Childress Racing, the symmetry would have been ideal. Dale Earnhardt, racing for RCR, crossed the finish line under the caution and checkered flags for his lone Daytona 500 victory 25 years ago. There was no overtime policy in place then. There were just 500 miles total in the race. In this competition, Earnhardt got to enjoy his 20th start. The race on Sunday had the most laps ever raced in its 65-year history, thanks to 2 overtime extensions that added 12 additional laps. For Busch, it turned out to be too many laps as he was engaged in a multi-car crash on the final lap. After leaving the infield care facility for the second time this week, Busch stated, "It's just normal. Accustomed to it. You only need to come down here once a year to figure out when and where I'm going to crash and what lap I'm going to exit the care facility." He nodded in agreement. There wasn't much else to say. Chaotic overtime. With 4 laps remaining, Busch overtook fellow RFK Racing teammates Brad Keselowski and Chris Buescher after being pushed by teammate Austin Dillon. Daniel Suarez, who bumped Busch in Thursday's qualifying race and caused Busch to use a backup vehicle for the 500, was hit and spun with less than 3 laps remaining. As a result, the race entered overtime and the caution came out. Busch and his group discussed where they should restart. At speedway races at Daytona, Talladega, and Atlanta, a new rule this season allows drivers to select their restart position. Busch and his group discussed which lane to take and where teammate Austin Dillon should line up. Busch reasoned that it would be preferable to take the top line and let Dillon take the best position so that he could then step aside for his teammate. That is what took place. Trouble then started off turn 2. According to Busch, "I was hoping to have a teammate restart where I could get down on the bottom end, we could get locked up, and William Byron and Busch and Dillon would all work together and push and go. It looked like it was kind of working, but we got too much separation off of turn 2, and I tried to back up to get to them. When they hit, it got me real squirrely, and Austin checked up and the accordion happened and everybody got running over everybody." Busch lost the lead as a result of the caution and was also left without his teammate. He began from the outside of the 3rd row for the last restart, but he was caught up in the incident on the final lap and came in 19th. "Who won?" Busch asked when speaking to the media following the competition. "I'm not even sure who got lucky with it." Busch responded, "There you have it," when informed that Ricky Stenhouse Jr. had become the Daytona 500's 42nd different champion. And now, let's take a closer look at the highlights from the race. The 65th running of the Daytona 500 was won by Ricky Stenhouse Jr., who overcame Joey Logano to take the lead during double overtime and then overtook him when there was a caution on the last lap. This is the biggest victory of Stenhouse Jr.'s NASCAR Cup Series career. With this victory, Stenhouse stopped a winless skid of 199 races that had been going on for more than 5 years. It's his 3rd Cup victory overall. Daniel Suarez's spin with 2 laps remaining triggered the first overtime, and Stenhouse entered the race after overcoming a pit road speeding penalty. Then, after a 13-car collision in Turn 3 was brought on by contact between Austin Dillon and William Byron, he pushed Logano into the lead from the outside lane and made a daring move to the inside for the top place. Then, for double overtime, Stenhouse and Logano teamed up once more, but Stenhouse seemed to be a sitting duck as Logano and Stenhouse both made their moves at the white flag. Larson slipped back and caused a multi-car collision in turns 1 and 2 as Stenhouse and Logano went side by side after a failed attempt to get to the outside of Stenhouse left him in the center. Stenhouse won the Daytona 500 for single-car JTG Doherty Racing since the field was frozen at the time of caution, according to NASCAR regulations. Stenhouse was barely ahead of Logano at that point. 10 years ago, Stenhouse was a rising star who had won 2 Xfinity Series championships and the 2013 Cup Rookie of the Year, among other honors. From that point on, his career has not been as successful. He was fired by RFK Racing after just 2 victories in 7 seasons, both in 2017, and he had also earned a reputation as an overly aggressive driver who was prone to collisions. But Stenhouse and Mike Kelly, with whom he had previously collaborated when they both raced for the Xfinity Championship, were paired up once more in the offseason. Another career-defining achievement followed their partnership's renewal, which brought about instant benefits. Stenhouse told Fox Sports, "I think this entire summer, Mike just emphasized how much we all believed in each other. They left me a note on the car that said they believe in me to go get the job done tonight. This Kroger Cottonelle squad worked incredibly hard during the off-season, and even though I made a couple mistakes, we were able to come back." The JTG Doherty Racing Team, which is owned by NBA legend Brad Daugherty and Jody and Tad Geschichter, also celebrated its second victory in team history with Stenhouse's victory in the Daytona 500. At Watkins Glen in 2014, with AJ Allmendinger at the wheel, the team had recorded its lone prior victory. The Daytona 500 has now been won by Daugherty, the first black car owner ever. The 65th Daytona 500 was the longest in the event's history due to 2 overtimes that increased the number of laps to 212. 207 laps in 2018 and 2019 had served as the previous record. The custom of leaving notes for Stenhouse dates back to their time competing in the Xfinity Series together, when Kelly would do so when things became difficult. Kelly would write a letter on the roll bar that only Ricky could see. After the race, Kelly told the reporters that he felt compelled to repeat the same thing today. The message in Kelly's card, "We believe, today," was crucial for a driver who had a roller coaster career, going from getting fired from his ride after failing to qualify for an Xfinity race as a rookie, to ultimately becoming a successful Cup driver. Over the offseason, that has essentially been the team's motto, according to Kelly. "I believe there are 40 to 45 individuals who work in our shop every day, but I have 45 people who believe in what we're trying to accomplish. We are a tiny team. We're not a super powerhouse team. We are small. We are working to rebuild Ricky Stenhouse's image in the public eye. In order to realize our vision, we need people to believe in me." So that's all it was, a brief letter I scrawled on a piece of duct tape saying, "We believe, and we believe today." Race results rundown. Alex Bowman, who started on pole, led a total of 12 laps en route to a 5th-place finish. His achievement made him the first pole sitter for the Daytona 500 in 22 years to finish in the top 5. The previous one was Bill Elliott in 2001. Ryan Blaney in the Daytona 500 may have fought back more than any other driver. Blaney was involved in an incident on lap 117 that caused significant right front damage, and then caused another caution when a tire failed, and finally, he crashed on the final lap. Blaney was given credit for an 8th-place finish in the top 10 despite all of that. Riley Herbst had a terrific Daytona 500 debut, and we're talking about coming back. Herbst lost as many as 2 laps as a result of a commitment line violation that resulted from a miscommunication and a delayed call to pit road that caused him to skid out on pit entrance during green flag stops. Herbst made his Cup Series debut in 10th place, one of 2 cars from Rick Ware Racing to do so, as teammate Cody Ware finished in 14th. Nevertheless, by the time the race was over, Herbst had returned to the lead lap. A bump draft from Eric Almirola on the last lap caused Travis Pastrana to spin into Kyle Larson, halting the race. Pastrana was in the middle of the lead pack at the time. Despite this, he had a decent Daytona 500 debut, finishing 11th and earning points for leading 2 laps during green flag pit stops. Zane Smith was another driver who benefited from overtime to finish well in the Daytona 500. Smith only made 2 Cup starts, but in his second one, he overcame a lap loss to place 13th. Smith won the Craftsman Truck Series season opener for the second consecutive year on Friday, capping off a spectacular speed weeks. Connor Daly of the IndyCar Series achieved a great deal by overcoming difficulty to qualify for the Daytona 500, but his debut at Daytona would only present him with additional difficulty. Daly was never a factor and ended 6 laps down. In his comeback to the Cup Series, Jimmy Johnson made it seem as if nothing had changed by maintaining a position in the front group all day and finished 6th in Stage 1. Johnson finished 31st, and regrettably, his day was done after he was involved in the major collision in the first overtime. The longest active winless stretch in the Cup Series belonged to Ricky Stenhouse Jr., who went 199 races without a victory. Michael McDowell has the new record for the longest active winless drought. His lone victory, which was the 2021 Daytona 500, came 71 races ago. With 18 circuits remaining, McDowell crashed and was collected, finishing 28th overall. Now, looking ahead to the next race, beginning with the final race at the original 2-mile track at Auto Club Speedway, the NASCAR Cup Series will now begin the majority of its early regular season with a West Coast swing. Coming up next, Sunday, February 26th, with a 3:30 p.m. start time, is the Pala Casino 400, which takes place at the Auto Club Speedway. You can check this one out on TV on Fox, also on the MRN Racing Network, and check out SiriusXM for more information on this race as well. And now, that ends today's episode. We sincerely hope that you enjoyed our video. Please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you'll see even more of our incredible videos. Thanks for spending time out of your busy day with us today, and we'll look forward to catching up with you next time in our next racing video. Have a great day, and thanks for watching, race fans.